Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Mistress of Philosophy. Today, we continue with Indian philosophy, and after this week, we will move on to other interesting topics in Indian philosophy called problems of Indian philosophy. So, I want to conclude here in the next two sessions, today's and tomorrow's, about some of the issues that we were raising in the previous few videos about Indian philosophy. Some classificatory problems of Indian philosophy include terminologies that we use to describe them, to put them into groups, to study them much easily. Some of these are systems of philosophy. Now, systems of philosophy is another word for the word darshana, which I already discussed in the first video. Now, these systems of philosophy basically can either believe that the Vedas are authority for their philosophical ideas, or they can say we do not believe that the Vedas are the ultimate authority for believing in any philosophical ideas. So the validity of ideas, when the final authority is the Vedas, then those schools that took recourse to this kind of proving their point, philosophical points, would be called Vedic, or they would be called Astika schools. Astika means believers. It's not belief in a god that was important, but belief in the Vedic text as authority. Not for everything, not for when the river is going to rise or when the moon is going to be the full moon. It was basically belief in the Vedas for philosophical problems. And the second part of the philosophers that did not believe in the Vedas, for example, the Buddhists and the Jainas, had their own forms of authority that they would refer back to. The Buddhists may refer back to their own texts called Nikayas or the teachings of the Buddha, the Dhamma. The Jainas would believe in the teachings of the Tirthankara, and they had their own texts for that. So sometimes when we talk about Indian philosophy, what happens is Indian philosophy is referred to as Hindu philosophy and Buddhist philosophy and Jaina philosophy. Now, this is a very colonial type of classification because when we use the word Hindu philosophy, we are implying that all these philosophies somehow have something common to them that is known as Hinduness, which may not be true because in this system of philosophy, there are also philosophies like Charvaka who did not believe in any god, nor did they believe in any kind of godhood or any kind of Hindu principles, what we commonly know as a religion. So not all philosophies were religious, but religions all had philosophy within them. And that's what makes Indian philosophy very confusing. Because if all our religions had philosophical basis, then we tend to confuse the philosophy of that religion with the religion itself. And this is a big problem for Indians because when we look at, for example, a school like the Dvaita school of Madhva Matha, where Sri Madhvacharya believed that there is a soul and there is a supreme God to which the soul surrenders and gets liberation, then we think that, oh, it's all about doing pujas. It's all about worshipping God in one temple. Dvaita philosophy doesn't tell you to worship God in a temple, but the philosophical basis of Dvaita philosophy says that you can have devotion to God. You can love God, you can serve Him, and you can follow His directions on how to reach Him. So a great number of treatises were written in the Dvaita philosophy, which may not speak anything about puja itself or the worship itself. A great number of poetry and songs may be also included, which belong to the religion, which may not contain anything about Dvaita philosophy. So, this confusion carries through in almost every person's mind when we encounter Indian philosophy because we keep running up against religion. And by the way, we did not also have this word religion. The word religion also comes to us from a Western classification of a system of belief. So we are already dealing with a number of labels that we haven't given ourselves, but names that other people give us. And then we have to battle it out and see if we fit that particular category. So, a typical textbook question that I learned in my younger days was, the holy book of the Christians is the Bible, the holy book of the Muslims is the Quran. What's the holy book of the Hindus? And I had to say Vedas. And I did win that quiz point, but the holy book of the Hindus need not be the Vedas, because some of them do not even believe in the Vedas completely. A large part of the traditions of the South sometimes refer to a different text called the Pancharatras for their belief system. Similarly, so the holy book of the Hindus can be the Bhagavad Gita, but the Bhagavad Gita is a part of something known as an epic or itihasa. And itihasas are not the final authority according to the philosophical basis. The Vedas are the authority. So if you ask, what is the philosophical belief system that allows for the Vedas to be final authority, those systems are known as the classical systems of Indian philosophy, which can be referred to as Astika. At the same time, including Buddhism and Jainism within the fold of Indian philosophy, we would say that Indian philosophy includes all streams of thought that perhaps are located in a certain kind of problem. And that problem is a problem of validity, proof, and perception. And this is what Matilal and others claim, that let's look at the problems that Indian philosophy deal with, which are peculiar to almost all systems, because they all wrote about these problems commonly. They all discussed them among themselves. So sometimes, when you go to a hotel and you walk in and your friends are already sitting at the table and they're busily debating and discussing something, and you ask them what is the theme of the conversation, nobody knows, because they all started discussing, let us say, vacations and the monsoon, and then they went on to discuss parties. And then you sit at the table, and if you sit for some time, you will catch the general trend of the conversations. There are some topics that are discussed amongst that group of friends, which are usually common. It's like the Facebook group or an Instagram group where you discuss a particular set of things. Some things are not discussed and some things are discussed again and again. And then you make out, oh, this group is busy discussing eco-friendly ways to handle the environment. Though they'll talk about books and other things, sooner or later they end up discussing this. Or you'll say these set of people are discussing the news. They talk about which news channel is telecasting at what time and what are the topics that are being, or current affairs. So these are kinds of groups. So similarly, so in Indian philosophy also, if you want to find out which group or what the group of Indian philosophers is doing, look at what they are discussing in their texts. What are the kinds of problems they are raising? And therefore, that will give you an idea of the way Indian philosophy develops and grows and what are the general themes in it. And that doesn't mean you should limit Indian philosophers to what they're doing in those texts, because as I said, a large part of this literature is also oral, and perhaps under the banyan tree, people would sit and discuss philosophy in a very casual way without writing huge commentaries about it. So, just to summarize today's episode, very short, very sweet, Indian philosophy has got Astika and Nastika streams of thought. Astika believe in the Vedas as the final authority. Nastika do not believe in the Vedas as the final authority. Nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with God, but religion and God have everything to do with Indian philosophy. So that's all for today's episode. I will be uploading another episode tomorrow. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so, because it's going to get more and more interesting. Also, I want you to know that when you subscribe to my channel, you will get your episodes upload information in your email. Or if you go to your YouTube channel and click on subscribe or subscriptions, you will see my name, and if you click against my name, the channel will open and you will see if new videos are uploaded. I'm trying to keep to a schedule of 2 videos per week, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. So we want to next look at classical and non-classical philosophies and whether text is important in Indian philosophy. And so with that, we will move on to a very interesting topic, whether atheists in Indian philosophy. And D.P. Chattopadhyay has a lot to say about that.